And we finally yesterday got a new deal for Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, who ends his holdout after agreeing to a 4-year, $136 million contract, which makes him the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. It includes $38 million in a signing bonus. That's the largest ever given to a wide receiver. It includes a $100 million guarantee. So look, this extension seemed inevitable, but it cannot be stressed enough just how important he has been to Dallas from the moment he arrived, increasing his receptions, his yards, and his touchdowns in each season since he entered the league. And that number you see there is the most important. Since he was drafted, Dak Prescott's total QBR when targeting Lamb is 93. That is the highest among all quarterback receiver combinations in the NFL during that stretch of time. So they got taken care of the one piece of business that was absolutely necessary. Jeff Darlington here, Bart Scott here, and Domonique Foxworth, I start with you. So let's fill in the blank here. They've got CeeDee Lamb in place. With him now back in the fold, the Dallas Cowboys, as the season begins, are what?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think they're probably mediocre. Like, CeeDee Lamb is great, Dak is great, but they lost some strength across that offensive line. And I think the question about this team going forward is going to be, how great can that defense be? If the defense is great and lives up to its potential, I think this team can be great. But I think the offense takes a step back from last year's top-of-the-league type of numbers.
Well, look, there's a team that's been winning 12 games. Is this team going to win 12 games this year, Bart Scott?
I think 11 or 12 is right where they're going to be. Listen, this still is a talented team. Now, with Deron Bland being injured, I know they wish they maybe had looked at signing Gilmore back, but this is a talented team top to bottom. You look at two of the best outside pass rushers. I think what they did with Zimmer moving to a 4-3, you won't be able to bully them anymore, going out and get Kendricks to play inside linebacker. But a sneaky signing, and people may say, oh, well, Carl Lawson hasn't lived up to his reputation ever since he went to the Jets. But what that allows them to do is to move Michael Parsons to middle linebacker, so now you have him playing his natural position at times when the game plan is to attack them at the second level.
So the answer to your question is the Cowboys are a contender. You win 11 or 12 games, you are a contender. Yes. Jeff Darlington, is there any reason to believe that this will be the first of two big deals that get done before the season? We all know the quarterback is sitting there and watching and waiting. Is there any reason to think that's going to happen?
There is very little reason to believe that will happen. The focus has been on CeeDee Lamb. So from that perspective, perhaps they can shift focus to Dak Prescott or Micah Parsons with a long-term deal. But we know about the nuance and the length it took to get this deal done with CeeDee. There is no suggestion, given the complications of Dak Prescott's situation, that they're going to get it done. Because quite frankly, he is exactly where any franchise quarterback wants to be, and that is on the cusp of free agency. I see no reason why he's going to take a deal from the Cowboys. The Cowboys are either going to have to overpay right now for him, or they're going to have to overpay in 5 months. Either way, I think that this deal does not get done until after the season.
Fair enough. So the contract stuff is, for the most part, finished in Dallas. Thank goodness, because we've been talking about that forever. Now let's get to the interesting stuff. Jerry Jones went off. He has never been afraid to say things to the media, and in this particular case, he said things that I still find remarkable. So he gave an interview to DLLS. It was released yesterday, and the conversation is about himself as the Cowboys general manager. I can only read you some of the words as you see, but he said, "I've done it all. So I have an inordinate amount of confidence that, bleep, if anyone can figure out how to get this stuff done, I can figure out how to get it done. I've been there every which way from Sunday, and I've busted my behind a bunch. And there's nobody living that's out cutting and out shooting that can't give you a bunch of times they busted their behind. So hell no, there's nobody that could bleep and come in here and do all the contracts and be a GM any better than I can. Plus, I'm where the buck stops. When it bleeps up, I got to cover it. And so there you can't give anybody enough. Can't give. There's nobody can do it." Again, that's Jerry Jones speaking ostensibly on the record about his history as the general manager and doing so as only he can. When we hear those words, Domonique Foxworth, what do you hear?
I mean, it's emotional and it's a little sad, but it's not wrong. Like, it's hard to argue that he's not telling the truth. Like, in the last 3 years, they have one less win than the Chiefs and more wins than everyone else. You can go back to even the Romo era where they were competitive. We know that they've fallen short in the playoffs a number of times. That is worth being critical. But I'm sure that lots of teams would kill for the roster that the Cowboys have been able to consistently put together, which does fall in the lap of the general manager. So it's ridiculous to say no one could do it. There's obviously lots of general managers out there that could do it, but it's also kind of absurd to say that he hasn't done it well. Even though they haven't won a Super Bowl, he's done it well. We can look at all pros that they've drafted in recent years. They moved back to get Micah Parsons. That's impressive draft work. They got DaRon Bland last year who stood out and had 6 touchdowns on interceptions. Trayvon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott. Like, Zeke's not the player he is now, but he was drafted by that team, or by that general manager. And Tyron Smith, who's gone now, they're going to miss. Like, it's hard to argue with the results of the way that they've drafted and built that team.
Something just jumped into my head. And I've been doing this job almost as long as he has owned that team. And I would say the number of times I've heard people say, Jerry Jones cannot be the general manager of that team. His being the general manager has been the reason they haven't been doing all the winning. It just occurred to me. He has been a much better general manager from a football standpoint than he has been an owner. That's the reality of it. The general manager stuff, he's done great. They've drafted like crazy. They've developed players. They've signed the right guys. They've made the right moves. You know what they haven't done? They haven't done all the little things that the owner enables you to do. They haven't spent the money. They haven't gone out and gotten the free agents. They've had the lowest cash outlay, whatever the numbers were that we found a couple of weeks ago. They spend less money on players every year than any other team in the NFL. The stuff that we associate with the owner, again, he's done the making money part, he's done better than anybody ever.
I mean, I will push back a little bit, right? Because
on what?
On the fact that, you know, he hasn't done what the owner's supposed to do. Like you said, $77 million on game day every day. I think you talk about the most profitable business or NFL franchise. Or
he makes money.
He's done all that. And as a general manager, he has went out and, you know, a guy who showed a lot of discipline, right? We think about all the picks he didn't pick, right? He didn't go get Johnny Manziel. And all the things he did with staying the course and building through the offensive line, the non-sexy picks. The reason why they haven't spent a lot of money in recent years is because they've drafted well, and now that credit card bill is due, to your point, the only thing I can say that he has really struggled with is how to cultivate an environment of accountability, discipline, and a championship mindset. He's got all the players, right? He's going on and gotten great players. What he hasn't done is created a environment of mental toughness. He's almost made it too nice. He's been too good of an owner. He's made it too comfortable. That's why I agree with what he's doing now. I don't pay Dak Prescott, because why pay Dak Prescott when you know it's probably going to be about $60 million? You know, so Dak Prescott, in my opinion, can only hurt his value by either not getting his team to the second round of the playoffs again. Why would I give you that money if this is what I'm getting as a result, right? You know, and also he got CeeDee Lamb done. So I would say he's done a great job with everything but building the culture, a championship culture. Well, he's built a good culture, not a great one.
Part of that might be because when the owner is the person in charge, the coach is devalued. The players are looking over the coach's shoulder.
Right.
Jeff Darlington, get in here.
I mean, I think it's, first of all, very interesting that he's sort of playing hardball with this quote, which, by the way, I've looked forward to you reading all morning long. But he's making it sound like he's this tough guy. And when it came to CeeDee Lamb's negotiations, just like Zach Martin last year, just like Ezekiel Elliott in 2019, all these guys eventually got paid. Like, it wasn't as if this holdout led to some discount deal. Basically, what we were waiting on is the Cowboys wanted a 5-year deal, and CeeDee Lamb wanted a 3-year deal, and play the suspenseful music. It ended up being a 4-year deal. I just don't understand all the drama surrounding something that feels like the easiest part of what Jerry Jones is trying to do. So I get it. We're debating whether Jerry Jones is a good owner, a good GM, all those things. But to me, it is Jerry Jones alone who is creating this drama for himself.
Neek, get in here.
Yeah, I think that's where you're right, Greeny, is that him as an owner, I think he does prioritize making this team newsworthy and making this team more relevant. And I don't think it's coincidence that they have these contract negotiations. I do think that's a part of him making sure that this team is in the conversation at all times. And that's him prioritizing different things as an owner and as a GM. And where you could also be critical of the decisions that he makes as an owner is about hiring coaches. The GMs aren't often the ones who hire the coaches. In some situations, they are. But in most situations, that's a decision made by the coaches. And that's where you could be critical of him, of the people that he's decided to hire and how long he's decided to stick with those people, despite the fact that they've fallen short in big moments. So I think, Greeny, you're on to something with us saying he's a good GM, but not necessarily is he a great owner when it comes to putting his organization the best chance to win a championship.
Let me make it clear. He's in the Hall of Fame as an owner, and he deserves to be. The business acumen is unquestioned. The marketing acumen is unquestioned. He's a genius, and he absolutely deserves everything that has come his way. None of this is meant to disrespect that. But what I am saying is that the little bits around the edges that usually are what make good teams great, that push things over the top, are the things the Cowboys haven't done.